Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the weekly BeBop webinar series. My name is David Benson. I'm the CTO and co-founder of BeBop. And today we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into BeBop's collaboration suite subscription tier. As we all know, or as we have discussed a lot recently, we've moved into a full subscription model at BeBop so that we can do a lot of things in a much more flexible way, not the least of which deliver a platform to our customers with simple pricing that is easy to digest and easy to understand. Today, I'm joined by Simran Butalia, our VP of Engineering, as well as Nathaniel Bonini, our Director of Technical Sales, who are going to do a couple of demos, some just discussion around the different parts of this area of our subscription plan that we're just now starting to put a lot more focus on, starting to put a lot more features and a lot more functionality into this specific area of the subscription plan to bring more value to the users that are using it. So at a high level, very quickly, what the collaboration suite today includes are two specific areas, really, as the name mentions and indicates, around collaboration. So at the top here, we have BeBop OTS, or what we call over the shoulder. With OTS, what we've created and delivered here is the ability for artists, for editors, for anybody that's really doing work on the workstations, which are in the core part of the platform, are able to actually invite in other authenticated BeBop users, which we call OTS reviewers, and engage in a live review session or any type of collaborative session, that is necessary throughout the creative process. And so the collaboration suite really enables the reviewing side of that with varying levels of these subscriptions, starting with free and moving up from there. But really, as I said, to enable the reviewing side of the BeBop OTS infrastructure. The second piece of this is what we call BeBop Data Manager. So any of our current users or users that have looked on our website see the BeBop Rocket offering, which is our built from the ground up file transport protocol and management platform, which allows users of the platform to very easily, very seamlessly move content around, but move it around in ways that are very cloud conducive, as we say. So not only can you use Rocket to ingest content from outside of the cloud or on-prem into the cloud using the BeBop client tools, where the Rocket protocol is natively integrated, but Rocket is also integrated natively into all of the public cloud object storage offerings, such as S3, Azure Blob, and Google Cloud Storage, so that, again, any user on the platform can very easily and very efficiently move content back and forth from either storage buckets, cloud storage buckets that they own as a company or as individuals, or storage areas that are being rented or resold from BeBop. So regardless of where your data is, Rocket as a protocol and as a tool for you is designed to get your data where it needs to be as quickly and efficiently as possible, so that we can remove any obstacles from the overall creative process. And so as the overall kind of subscription architecture, as we can see on the bottom here, we have our standard subscriptions for users that are doing work on workstations. Those are artists, those are editors, and the like. And as we move down here, as we've been describing, we have our collaboration suite subscriptions, which are really embodying these two areas of use case that I just described, being OTS and the BeBop Data Manager. So with that description, what I'd like to do is hand off to Nathaniel to start, and Nathaniel's going to focus a little bit more specifically on the OTS and the OTS reviewer component of the collaboration suite subscription, and then we'll move on to Simran Butalia, who will talk about the data manager component as well.
Great. Well, thanks, Dave. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. And thank you for joining us today. The OTS, or over the shoulder, is a very powerful tool for collaborating on the platform, and we want to show you a little demo of that in just a moment. But what we do is we mimic what goes on in a creative suite, and that allows us to allow an artist to communicate remotely or with a producer or creative director, and allow them to give real-time feedback with the artist as to the work that's going on the platform. So what I'd like to do, and the other thing that's very important here is that this the technology is very simple to use, and one of the beauties of the technology that we use is that it's simple for the artist to use, it's simple for the producer to use, and it's transparent to the process, which is very important for creative products. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share my virtual machine with you, and we'll bring that up, and I'll just turn my camera off there. And so what you're looking at right now is the BeBop's session dashboard, and there are several components to this session dashboard. But what we want to do is we want to set up an over-the-shoulder session, so that what I want to do is I want to share my new cut with the producer, and I've got a cut right here that I'm working on, and I'm going to go into the over-the-shoulder panel here, and I'm simply going to put in a session name. It's a demo session. This is a demo, and I'm going to select the user, and I'm going to go and select Simran Butalia, who is on the other end of the OTS session here, and I'm simply going to click the invite button, and now on Sim's screen, he sees an invite pop up in the same panel, but he'll also get an email telling him that somebody wants to do an OTS session with him. So it takes just a moment to connect the two machines, and what we'll do, what we can also do, and I'm going to go ahead and just share my full screen here, and you can see that. You can see down here in where my name is that the screen is indeed being shared, and we can move through the edit and do what we need to from here. But what I'd like to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'd like you to see what it looks like from the other side. So once I stop here, Sim, if you wouldn't mind sharing the OTS session with the folks.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Let's do that. And just to mention that I am here in Los Angeles, so we'll be on
I wanted to mention that as well. I'm actually in New York City, and Sim is in LA. So one of the wonderful things that you can do is bring people in from anywhere that they have access to the BeBop region that you're using. So if I look, I'm going to minimize my screen here. So we're seeing your desktop, if that's.
All right. So let me
sorry about that.
Properly. Just give me 1 second.
Just a quick.
Can you see my screen now?
Let's see.
There we go.
And there, it's coming through perfectly. Thank you. So now I'm going to get back into my virtual machine, and I can go ahead and manipulate this. I can say, hey, check out this new cut that I put together. What do you think? Let's go and put some put an effect over here and change change this this segment here, and we can talk through this. And do this in real time. So it doesn't. It's it's a different way for people to think about doing live review and approval when you're remote from each other, and it's very exciting. One of the key benefits of being on the platform and being in the cloud is that if you have your media available in the cloud, your tools are always there. So as long as you have your tools and your media there, you can access this 24/7 from wherever you are, and it's a wonderful. The example I always like to use is if you're a producer and you get the call from your client at 3 o'clock in the morning that the editor used the wrong voiceover for the cut and it's due at 8 a.m. Well, that editor can literally roll out of bed, fire up a workstation, get on the system, make the change, re-render, do a live OTS review and approval with the producer, get that approved and get that out without ever going to the office. So it really has a tremendous amount of flexibility for all of the end users.
Nathaniel, this is one
yeah,
thing, just to add on to that, I want to, one of the things that's interesting is that we talk a lot about at BeBop and with our customers, this notion of, you know, whether it's working from home or remote or distributed, however you want to describe it, not, you know, in a building together. A lot of the processes, you know, both support and creative, that are almost assumed that you have at your disposal and at your fingertips when you're in that building. As soon as you leave the building, they all kind of disappear. And from a collaborative standpoint, that's really challenging, right? Especially for a creative, for an editor, you know, artist, and anyone doing this type of work that's used to that kind of almost instant collaborative quality about being in a facility like that. And so what this does, and what a lot of this is trying to replace, is that almost instant collaborative capability, right? Exactly as you just described.
Thanks, Dave. So I think that's a great segue to you know, discussing how what other collaborative tools that the BeBop platform enables. And I think that you know, with OTS, it is a very powerful tool to allow those use cases that you mentioned. In addition to that, having machines together with in the same sort of domain as your storage, and now that we're talking virtually, it really changes the game, because now you're not tied to that office, and because you're not tied to that office, you need a way to get your content in and out of the platform and to move it around. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sim to talk about the Rocket features of the platform.
Thank you. So I'd like to bring you into my desktop hell. This is how data wranglers and everybody that wants to transfer content and move content around has their desktops, right? Lots of windows, lots of content everywhere, all over the place. So this is pretty realistic, I think. So what I want to kind of show is how can you bring all this into one place and kind of organize yourself on BeBop. And we've made that really easy with our product called BeBop Rocket. With Rocket, you can bring content from the cloud. You can bring it in from your external storage locally. You can send content out to the cloud as well. So very efficient ways to move content around. So I'll start with the BeBop client. So this is the clients that you use to access the workstations. So this is what we were currently doing with the OTS session with Nathaniel. I was logged in and to this workstation and doing that collaboration with him. I'm sitting in the West Coast and he's in the East Coast virtual machine, and we had a really flawless kind of collaboration there. Just to mention, this is our free collaboration suite, right? So we have a limited amount of OTS time that you can have on the free suite, and for paid, there's more. So there's different tiers and how we do OTS. So this was an example of kind of like the free suite. So going into moving content. So using our BeBop client, you can simply ingest a file by going into your project. So projects in BeBop are essentially a volume mount. but with solutions attached to it, right? So you can have a project that you can just simply move files around with and host files on, or you can have a project which is dedicated to Adobe Premiere cache. If you can imagine, you know, Premiere has a lot of cache that they need to manage, and we make it easier for you, right? So we dedicate a project where as soon as you launch Premiere, all the cache is automatically set to go into that project, so it doesn't hit your editorial storage and things like that. It really makes it efficient, and those kind of solutions are added on top of these BeBop projects to allow better data movement and handling in your BeBop environment. So this example, a simple volume project, you go in here and you simply browse for your files. I am a huge Batman fan, so you'll see me transferring a lot of Batman content. Once you transfer the file, it takes a couple of seconds and it's up and running. This is all driven by our transfer servers on the other side on the cloud in AWS, Azure, GCP. These transfer servers that are transferring this content are written from the ground up. Every line of code is our own proprietary code that we've written with kind of the industry knowledge over 10 to 15 years of, you know, transferring files have gone into this code, and we've optimized it for the cloud, right? So it's optimized to get content into S3, into AWS, into GCP, into Azure, right? And it scales as you add content in. So when you have 10,000 frame DPX frames that you want to send over, you just kind of buy a couple more transfer servers and it scales your transfers so they get in parallel. So it's very optimized. It's redundant. If one transfer server fails, the next one takes over and finishes your file. We do extensive checksumming. So we have the standard MD5 checksum. We also do some of our own checksums at a bit level to ensure a second level of integrity once it gets to your workstation. So that file that is getting there has a right legs and arms, right? It's not mutated in any way. And because of these signatures, we are ready for, you know, some of the next level futuristic stuff like blockchain and AI and things like that. So all this code is kind of future-proof in that sense. So this is transferring just a couple of files and folders. And now let's download that file. So when we go back in and kind of look at here, it's my Iron Man file. So came right back down right away, right? Very quick transfers given these are very small files, but so the round trip is there. But what if you have a huge NAS drive attached to your local laptop here? Here's an example of me hooking up to my Synology disk station with a lot of content. And from this disk station, I can set up a hot folder essentially. Yeah, gotta type in the password right. There we go. Once you set up your hot folder, it's basically the same transfer as before. Sorry, I have an issue with my disk station. So let's go back to just a regular hot folder, local. So here's my sync folder. And then we have a few options. You can whitelist a few things. So if you want to only send in proxy folders instead of everything else, so when we select it here, if you want to only send something that says proxy in it, you know, you can add those kind of whitelist kind of functionalities from a folder and file perspective. So only things that have the word proxy in it will get sent over. Do you want to only send it one way and not retransfer the files? Do you want to keep your path, you know, your local path that you have here? Do you want to keep that when you get to the workstation? Those kind of options are available. And these will grow over time as we introduce more workflows for the users. So in a few seconds, here you go. Everything that's proxy is getting transferred over and everything else is left. And we're doing our checksums and rechecking and all that in the background. So a quick example of a BeBop client and how we're moving content. So now let's move to the cloud. And Internet connection's unstable because I have really, my internet's not the greatest today. So I'm going to stop these just to make things efficient. Some questions. We're here to answer your questions. Going into S3. So here's my S3 bucket. Bring this content down to my cloud storage. So going into a project. Let's set up a simple project. First thing you do is you set up your credentials. So here I've set up my AWS, my Azure, my GCP credentials. You add your access key and secrets for your different environments, and you're good to go. So now your credentials are all set up. You can dedicate these credentials to one bucket. You can do cross account and all that stuff in the background. And once you add these, it's as simple as setting up your projects. So set up this project called AWS Sync. Let me refresh this and kind of start over. So let's add a sync setting. So we have our credentials set up. So now we're going to pull in that credential. So my AWS creds. Next, here's all my bucket. And this is the bucket we're looking at. You can either kind of drill down into a particular folder, right? You can go as deep as you want, or you know what? I just want to bring down everything. So let's do root folder. Once you're there, you can choose to send content up to S3, or you can choose to bring it down from S3. By down, we mean down to your workstation, or send it back to the cloud. Right, so once you have your direction all picked out, you have an option to actually pick one file, or kind of drill down and say, you know what, I just need Joker 4. So you can have an option of just bringing down one file, or you can just stay on the root and bring everything down. So we're going to bring everything down. Let's quickly verify everything is good to go. We save our settings, and within about a minute, this monitor will kick in and start transferring files. So here's an example of some of the files I had before we started here, and those files came in here and transferred flawlessly. So that was AWS. GCP is the exact same thing, which is different credentials, but the process of selecting a bucket and a path within the bucket is the same thing. Here's an example of content coming in from GCP. And of course, Azure is the same thing. We simply add the Azure ones, and it works the same way. So 3 different ways to get in content from the cloud into your workstation. But did those things actually get there? Let's take a look. So once you get into your BeBop workspace, right, your workstation in the cloud, your cloud workstation, you will get to see all this content. So my workstation is loading up. Here's my workstation, and here are all my projects. All the content coming in from everywhere. Here's S3. That's an old one, sorry. That is an old one. Here is S3. Here's all the content came down. This is the new one with just transferred with Batman, Joker, Penguin, the deep folder. So if we go back to our S3 project and refresh this, it should show all the new, there you go. All the new transfers just transferred flawlessly, right? So here we are with the S3, and the same thing with GCP, same thing with Azure, right? So all your content comes in flawlessly from all the different clouds. And it's really easy to set up a new project and send it back to your cloud, right? So we just mount a new project, and when we put content in there, it goes back up. And then if we look at our other project, which has a bunch of stuff in here, here's my sample sync folder with only the proxies coming in, right? So there's the content. This is my dance studio. So for New Year's, I had a little graphic. So here's a really cool example of how you can bring in content from literally everywhere and have one single place for your editors to kind of go in and edit from all this madness. So if you look at it from my desktop to the cloud, now I can have a clean, nice, easy space to start working from all my content. And that is a quick demo of BeBop Rocket and moving content.
So Sim, I have a question for you about can one of the things that we can utilize Rocket for is processes that may need to happen outside of Bebop, like if you had an asset management system and you wanted to send a collection of assets to Bebop through your object store folder in your cloud service provider. Can you utilize the cloud sync function that you showed off for other types of use cases, let's say if you wanted to do if you wanted to send your deliverable back for broadcast or for playout or for something like that, and then another system could pick up those files?
Yeah, absolutely. We can easily set up a project to do those kind of things, right? So if you have the deliveries need to go to S3, it's as simple as creating a new project with a sync, which sends to a customer's S3 bucket, right? So in this case, we can say here, I want to send it to this guy here, and the direction is up. Now you can easily work with a playout facility and say if they have cloud storage, just have them give you a cross-account role access to their bucket, right? And then you can easily deliver from the Bebop workstation, drag a file into that project, and it automatically sync it to their cloud account. We can also do things like automatically transfer files in the background. Our managed services division, which Dave can speak to, is very good at working with Aspera and Signient and kind of orchestrating workflows that allow you to drop a file into a project, and in the background Aspera kicks off and sends it over. We've done that for a couple of our customers, so that's more of a managed services part. It's not UX driven, but it's definitely possible to set those kind of scenarios up in the background.
And one final question that we have is the sort of the speed of the transfer and the parameters. You'd mentioned that you could send a lot of files very quickly through Rocket if you had additional transfer servers. Can you talk a little bit about that? A little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So as you can imagine, pipe is a pipe. The bigger it is, the better it is. But you also need workers to work within that. So if you have one transfer server that's bringing in content from S3, GCP, Azure, doing hot folder transfers and doing a transfer, it's kind of like a freeway. You're going to get jammed, right? You need more lanes on the freeway. So the more transfer servers you have, the better those transfers will go. And our Rocket servers are really good at kind of distributing their work across multiple transfer servers. So currently we have one transfer server, right? So you'll see these two transfer servers. So you have 4 transfers going. But we can easily load up 10 transfer servers and you'll see 20 things down here easily transferring those files. It'll also distribute the work from S3 and all these cloud storages to do things in parallel. So rather than looking at it from a speed perspective, we really give you more lanes on the freeway to easily get your content in. So if you have a high priority delivery, you can prioritize that from a speed lane. So the parallel aspect of Rocket is really cool, and that's where it's really driven for the cloud. Working in practice, we had one of our customers that started the S3 transfers. They were slow, and within 2 minutes, we loaded up 10 transfer servers for them, and everything was down within the hour, which is really cool to see. And from a benchmarking perspective, I'd just like to say we have been transferring this for the last 4 years. The system's been in production, and before the big COVID happened, we had about 4 million files, and we have had incredible growth since then. And now I think we're approaching about 7 million files transferred, and terabytes, almost petabytes of content going through daily. So this is very battle tested and resilient in a production environment.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. So with 1 minute left, great information. Thank you guys for all of that, all the conversation. There were a couple questions we got answered. If there are any questions that were unanswered, please feel free you can always just shoot an email to info@beboptechnology.com. And with that, I will just kind of from a forward-looking perspective say that we are very actively looking at expanding the features that you've seen within the collaboration suite today that are available as we speak. Very actively looking in the areas of review and approval tools, abilities to quickly share content, share files, and from an overall standpoint, as we've been discussing, collaborate in all the ways that we're all used to doing it, but making it as seamless, as efficient, and as fun as possible. So with that, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.